Yes.
If so, I'll call the meeting to order at 7:30. Roll call, please.
Mr. Simons?
Here.
Freehand is present. Mr. Boda?
Here.
Mr. Patsalas?
Here.
Ms. Babel?
Here.
Mr. Blackstock?
Here.
And Mr. Horn is absent.
Okay. Would you follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, moving on to approving the agenda. Is there any additions or deletions to the agenda as presented? I have two. We'd like to add the Park Commission minutes of September 11th, 2019 as item C8. You have them in front of you at your desk. And the other one I'd like to add is the St. Clair County Road Commission invoices. They came in late, and we'd like to get them on there so we can pay them in the time frame that we don't get penalized. And I'd like to make that item C9. So is there any other corrections or deletions to the agenda as presented? Hearing none,
You need a motion?
yeah, I need a motion to approve the
I'll
agenda.
make a motion, we approve the consent agenda with the addition of C8 and C9. Support.
It's been moved and supported that we approve the agenda with the additions of C8 and 9. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to the approval of the minutes of October 7, 2019. They're in your packet.
There are no additions or deletions. I'll make a motion. We accept the minutes for October 7th, 2019.
Support.
It's been moved and supported that we approve the minutes of October 7th, 2019. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have public comment. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to talk about anything that's not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. C1 is the August 2019 Sewer and Water Authority minutes. C2, September 2019 Sewer and Water Authority special meeting minutes. C3, September 2019 St. Clair Area Fire Authority report. C4 is September 2019 Revenue and Expenditure report. C5, September 2019 balance report. C6 is September 2019 cash summary by bank. C7, September 2019 cash summary by account. C8, Park Commission minutes of September 11th, 2019. And C9, St. Clair County Road Commission invoices. Is there any questions on any of those? They were all in your packet. If there's no questions, a motion should be made to accept the consent agenda.
So move.
I'll support.
We have a motion and a support to accept the consent agenda as presented. No further questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to disbursements, we have invoices of $252,781.43. We have accounts payable, $42,842.71. We have payroll direct deposit of $35,904.29. We have EFT payments of $11,080.24. We have a tax account, $219,727.61, for our total disbursement of $562,486.94. $336.28.
I'll make a motion, we pay the disbursements in the amount of $562,336.28.
I support.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a support to pay the bills. Is there any questions on the bills? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Simons,
Yes.
Mr. Boda,
Yes.
Mr. Butsalis.
Yes.
Freehan votes yes. Mr. Blackstock,
Yes.
Mrs. Babel,
Yes.
all yeas.
Motion carries, we pay the bills. All right. Next, moving on to new business, we have property and liability insurance renewal proposals. Would you like to go to the podium, or you got a packet, or? Okay.
Okay.
Good evening. Good to see you all again. My name is John Johnson. I am your representative from Burnham and Flower Insurance Agency. I came out today to do a brief review of the township's upcoming property and liability renewal. We have a November 1 renewal date coming up with the Michigan Township Participating Plan. We've been a member on and off with the PAR plan for a number of years now, and we appreciate the opportunity to continue to work with you, and hopefully I can answer any questions you might have, and just do a brief review, so thank you. Page numbers are on the upper right-hand corner, so I will reference those as we go through the proposal, but as I'm going through this, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to interrupt. Wanted to point out a few things about the program itself before we get into the coverage portion of the document. If you refer to page 2, you'll see a few highlighted bullet points there. First of which is the dividend returns to date. So to date, East China Township has received just under $1,000 in dividends. This program was implemented a number of years ago now, and essentially it is a way that the PAR plan has been able to reimburse its members a percentage of your premium dollars, assuming that claims are lower than projected. So I believe the last dividend distribution went out right around April of this year, and we hope that program will continue in the future. Secondly, grant awards to date. I believe your township has received the grant, the risk reduction grant, twice so far. I can't recall what those approvals were for. 3 times? Okay. And we are actually in the current application window. So although you have been approved for previous grants, that does not exclude you from this application window or even the next application window, which would be in the spring. The window began October 1 and will remain open through November. So townships have essentially 2 months to get their application submission in. As far as the grant itself goes, there haven't been many significant changes. Townships can still receive up to $5,000 for safety or risk-related purchases. So anything from new playground equipment, safer playground equipment, maybe exterior lighting at any of your parks or playgrounds or any of your locations. Security cameras are a real common one, dash cameras on vehicles, things like that. So very broadly written grant, and I would encourage you to look into that. And if you have any questions on the application itself, please don't hesitate to contact me. The one change they did make to the grant is the application, which is now all online, where in the past you would have to essentially do a handwritten application. The application is now a fillable document on the PAR Plan's website, which is theparplan.com. And there are a few designated links on their homepage related to the grant. The third program is the PAR plan will reimburse for a few specific certifications and the expenses for those certifications, one of which is the Michigan Citizens Planner certification. If you have any board member or employee that is interested in getting that certification, again, you can contact either myself or the PAR plan, and they will guide you on how to apply for that and also how to get reimbursed for that certification. The other one is the Michigan Zoning Administrator course, which is through the state. Those are the two certifications that, again, if you have anyone interested in getting those, you can get those expenses reimbursed from the PAR plan. So just wanted to point out a few of those programs. Page 3, you'll see our Michigan team, my contact information, as well as Michigan, my counterpart on the west side of the state, and our support staff, Bobby and Jean. We are all available to you, again, if throughout the year, if questions come up, new purchases that we need to get added to the policy, anything like that, we're all available to assist you if you have any needs. One other thing I wanted to mention, again, before we get into the coverage portion of the document, is on page 5. Near the bottom of the page, you'll see a little bit of an explanation of HCC's risk control services. I do not recall the last time risk control had been out to do a site visit. They generally like to do a site visit every 3 or 4 years. I would have to look into their system to see the last time they were out, but essentially their service is to come out and do a site visit. They may do a walk around of your different properties, give you a written report on if they see any outlying issues that need to be taken care of. They'll do appraisals on your buildings and so on. They may even sit down with a few of your department heads and go through policies and procedures and those types of things. If there are any policies or procedures that the township currently does not have in place and you're looking to implement a new policy, they have a wide variety of sample documents as well that they can send out to you to kind of help you get started on any of those things. So they're a really great resource to have as well. And the last service that they offer is they do a number of seminars and presentations. So if you have, again, any employees or even any volunteer groups that work with the township, often risk control can come out and do different presentations on different topics. I think they have about 12 different topics that they can do presentations on. And again, if there's anything that you are interested in then coming out and doing a presentation, I can get you in touch with the right people, and they can, they'd be more than happy to work with you on coming out and doing a seminar. So, page 7 begins the actual coverage portion of our renewal proposal. One thing I will say is there are no significant changes to the coverage or to the policy document this year. So I will do, again, just a brief overview, and if you have questions as I go through it, please don't hesitate to ask. And then we did offer some additional program options like we have in previous years, which I will get to at the end of the proposal. So you will see on page 7, section 1, general liability. So we always start with who is a named insured. Again, a named insured is any member of the governing body, any member of any board or special commission, any elected or appointed official, any employee, which would include full or part-time employee, and any volunteer. So really, anyone that is working on behalf of the township is going to be covered by this policy document. Section A, comprehensive general liability. This covers claims of bodily injury, property damage, also covers what they call personal and or advertising injury. This is on township premises or throughout the course of township operations. So you will see we have a per occurrence limit listed. We do not have an aggregate, meaning there is no cap or limit to a set number of liability claims in a given policy term. Essentially, every claim you have a new per occurrence limit waiting to respond on behalf of the township. We do have I believe, a $5,000 deductible for any general liability suit or claim. There are a few sublimits to the general liability, which you will see listed below. And continuing on to page 8, you will see a list of additionally and automatically included extensions of the general liability. Everything from cemetery liability coverage, elected and appointed officials, residence coverage. So if any of you are doing township-related work from your residence and there's a liability situation that comes about, this policy will extend to your residence. That's a big one for many of our elected officials. All the way down to special event coverage. So if the township sponsors any special events, a vast majority of those are automatically going to be covered by the policy. There are a few exclusions, things like fireworks or liquor. So if you had a beer tent, something like that, that may require a special event policy just for those unique exposures. But many of your standard township functions are going to be automatically covered as special events. Section B.
John, can I stop one
yes.
second before you go on?
Mhm.
Under that, well, what you talked about right now, the very first bullet,
Mhm.
athletic participation liability. What is
Yes.
that?
So if the township is to sponsor any athletic event, let's say maybe a softball tournament or something along those lines, and there's a liability case that comes up from the sponsoring of that athletic event, those potential claims would be extended or would be covered under the general liability as well.
How about if the township allows leagues to play on our fields?
So a non-township sponsored league, the liability for the township's property will extend to those situations. In some cases, though, there is what they call an inherent risk for sports, let's say. So, most athletes realize that in the course of any sport, there is a possibility of becoming injured, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean it is the township's or the park's fault for that injury.
Correct.
So there is some inherent risk of sports events going on, but this would be specific to a township-sponsored event. If there is a case at the park, though, where there is an injury, and the individual maybe says it's because the park was not maintained properly or something along those lines, and there's a liability situation there. Again, that's premises and operations, so that would fall back to the general liability.
So that would cover soccer, I mean, as far as like the soccer leagues use our fields also. So that would be
Correct.
the same implementation.
Correct. Correct. Yeah.
Excuse me, what about, we get several requests from different organizations to pay a donation to their teams and so forth. Now, we being hung up on that?
So they're asking the township to, again, quote unquote, sponsor their tournament or something along those.
Oh, to pay some money
lines,
towards
yeah,
it. They go
okay.
to different people.
So although the township may give a donation and put your name as a sponsor on a advertisement or on some tournament or something like that, we would consider that still different than a township-sponsored function. So it's not the township putting on the function. You're just kind of participating as a sponsor. So generally for those cases, whoever is putting on the tournament or whoever is putting on the event, they would carry the liability. But again, if it's on township property or at any of the township parks, if the township were named in a liability case, this policy would still extend to those events regardless. Yeah. Any other questions on the extensions of the general liability? Okay. Moving on to Section B, we have the employee benefits liability. You'll see we do have an aggregate here. We have a per occurrence limit and an annual aggregate for the employee benefit liability. Think of this as a employee benefit, so most commonly would be any pension or retirement-related program that you might have in place, any health insurance-related program, or workers' comp. If you have those programs in place and there is a benefit that an employee believes they were promised but not delivered by those other programs, and there is a suit or a discrepancy that is filed against the township, if there is need for defense and any payout there, those types of cases would be covered under this section. Section C, we have the public officials liability. It's sometimes referred to as wrongful acts coverage. This is you, the board's coverage for your decisions and or actions on behalf of the township. You will see we have the same per occurrence limit as the general liability for this section. Again, no annual aggregate here. And we have the same deductible as the general liability. One thing I will mention, if you refer to that fourth line down in section C, occurrence form included. So this is a occurrence-based policy, not a claims-made policy. The benefit to having an occurrence-based policy is the occurrence is the decision and or action by you, the board, not the potential suit or claim that might be filed. So, for example, if in a future board meeting you make a decision on a new agenda and 10 years down the road someone has an issue with that decision, it's not the policy 10 years from now that would have to defend. It would be this year's policy and this current board that would have coverage. So again, the benefit of that is if over the next 3, 4, 5, 10 years, any of you step down from your position as a board member, you'll know that all of the work and all of the decisions you made while on the board continue to be covered by this policy document. There are a few sublimits to the public officials liability, those last two lines of that section. You will see one of which is called non-monetary defense coverage. This would be specific for any legal defense that might be necessary for a injunctive relief type situation that might not fall under what they consider a traditional public officials liability claim. And the second one is the private property use restriction sublimit, which is essentially zoning coverage. And you'll see we do have a per occurrence limit for any private property use restriction claim. No annual aggregate for that section. We do have the law and or code enforcement liability. Any of the code enforcement actions and operations would be covered by this section. You'll see we have the same per occurrence limit as the general liability and the public officials as well. No annual aggregate there. The last liability section is on page 10, section E, our automobile liability. Again, same per occurrence limit. You'll see this in parentheses has hired and non-owned vehicles. So hired would be any township-owned vehicle. Non-owned meaning non-owned by the township, so any employee's personal vehicle. If a board member or employee is using their personal vehicle for township-related business and is in an automobile accident, this liability will extend to your personal auto. Again, specific to liability, Michigan is currently a no-fault state, and so as far as physical damage coverage, that would fall to your personal auto insurance. But as far as liability goes, this would extend to any board member or employee's personal auto.
Is that after your personal liability?
It will coordinate with your personal auto liability. So
50-50?
It really depends on how your personal auto is set up. Generally, personal auto would be set up as primary, and if that's the case, then this would come in secondary if need be.
Well, I mean, my personal auto don't know that I have this.
Right. In almost all cases where I've seen personal auto policies, they're gonna be primary to any
So
additional
this comes in
policy.
after
If there's a need,
most
yep.
cases.
If your limit isn't high enough, if for some reason that policy has an exclusion that you aren't aware of at the time, and we find out that this power plan package has to come in to defend, it would coordinate with that personal auto, yep. As far as physical damage, in that same scenario, if you're in your personal vehicle, we do have a endorsement about halfway through that second box on the page, physical damage to insured's personal auto. So I'd mentioned no fault in your insurance repairing or replacing your vehicle if need be, but this endorsement does award a employee up to $1,000 for your potential out-of-pocket expenses for that accident. So generally, that's to reimburse for your collision deductible. So if you have maybe a $500 or $1,000 deductible, you can get that out-of-pocket expense reimbursed, and then anything above and beyond your deductible would pretty much fall to your personal auto insurance. But that's a nice endorsement to have, and I always like to point that one out as well. Page 11, we have our vehicle schedule. I know we're constantly making updates to this schedule. We've worked with Cindy on reviewing the schedule, and any updates that were needed should be reflected on the schedule.
Are these replacement costs? Are they prorated after?
These are what they call actual cash values, so they do take into account depreciation. So the values listed were the either new purchase values or at the time of purchase values listed, but they do take into account potential depreciation for these types of vehicles, yes. Page 10 begins our property, page 12 begins our property section of the policy. You'll see we have about 2 pages of township property, so everything from this location to your sheds, your lift stations, your pavilions, and so on. Again, many of the lift stations are all listed, and we've worked with Cindy on this schedule to make sure that we have any updates necessary on the schedule. You'll see a majority of the buildings are covered with no contents. Things like lift stations and pavilions don't necessarily have contents, but of course this facility and a few of the other locations do have some contents.
Cindy, did we ask them to break these down on these lift stations, the 2 we talked about last week? The Putty Gut and St. Clair Highway?
Did we ask whom?
Were we gonna try and break those out so we knew what they cost in the total policy?
To insure? Yes, I know in the past, Jean, my CSR, has done a premium breakdown.
So you're
So
getting that
once
to
we
us?
renew, she can break out whatever we need to give you specific premium
Before
dollars.
it wasn't.
Right, yeah. So
right.
if it's certain locations, we can do it that way. If it's a percentage of the expenses and things like that, we can do it that way as well. So whatever you need to see broken out as far as premium goes, we can work with you on that. Yep.
All right.
On page 14 is an overview of the property section, and the main thing I'll point out on this page is that first limit. So the property coverage, the way the power plan insures property is what they call on a blanket valuation. So you'll see our total property limit here is just over $6.5 million in property. So essentially what that does is that subtotals all of our buildings that we have listed and all of our contents into one total bucket or one total limit for property. The benefit to having that blanket valuation is if for any reason, if we have a claim, let's say where one of these facilities or one of these buildings were totaled out, And at the time of loss, we determined that the limit that was assigned to that specific location was not adequate to rebuild with today's codes and materials and so on. We are not held to that assigned limit. We can pull from this total blanket limit for any claim. So it gives us some wiggle room. And again, same thing if we were to have a situation where there were multiple facilities that had to be rebuilt or repaired. We're not held to those lower limits. You always get to pull from that larger blanket valuation from that larger bucket. On page 15, similar to the liability, we have some extensions of property coverage this time. Again, you'll see everything from debris removal, tree cleanup, records and paper research and replacement coverage, all the way to some personal effects of employees and so on. And on the right-hand side of the page here, we have the specific limit. All of these extensions of coverage are going to be in addition to the building and contents coverage that is on the previous page's schedule. On page 16, we have the EDP coverage, which is the electronic data processing coverage. This is all related to the township tech. So any computer, printer, phone, fax machine, anything like that would be covered under this section. Not only is the hardware or the physical computers and everything like that covered, but the software is as well. So if we were to have to re-download or re-implement certain software programs, that is an additional expense that would be covered. And when they say extra expense, that's if we were to, at the time of a claim, have to maybe hire also a tech professional to come back out and set you back up. That additional expense won't use up your limit for any of the tech replacement. At the bottom of page 16 and continuing through 17 and 18, we have our inland marine coverage, which is essentially any mobile type equipment, anything that has the ability to go in and out of your facilities. When we're talking contents, generally we're talking your furnishings, your desks, your tables, your chairs, and so on. Inland marine is anything that's mobile. So again, you'll see everything from the voting equipment to a lot of the equipment over at the park, the dugouts and so on, generators, different things like fencing and all, and again, continues all the way through page 18. I know we worked with Cindy on making some updates to this schedule as well, and if you notice that we need to again add or subtract anything, we can make those adjustments as needed. But this should be up to date for today's schedule. And finally, on page 19, we have our third section, the crime and bonding section. So this is related to township funds. You will see we have coverage for theft, disappearance, destruction of funds, some what they refer to as employee dishonesty coverage, and so on. You'll see the different limits for those specific type cases. And then at the bottom of the page, we have all of our bonding coverage. So generally treasurer down through supervisor bonded. One thing I will mention for the bonds specifically is that they are all position bonds. They are not assigned to the individual. So if you ever have any change in the makeup of who is the appointed individual for any of these positions, we don't have to amend or update the bond. Essentially, whoever the appointed person is will carry the listed bond, so we don't have to change them as maybe employee changes might occur. Finally, on page 20 on our back cover, we have our 2019-2020 renewal package proposal page. You'll see our renewal package as presented is at, we're coming in at $15,690 this year. We did add some additional program options like we have in previous years. things like the property and liability terrorism-related coverage. We did offer a cyber and privacy liability package, which would be in addition to this policy. Currently, the power plan does not have its own coverage for that, so we're able to offer this through a different program that would cover many of those cyber hacking type situations and so on that I'm sure you're beginning to hear more and more about on the news. Also offered some additional increased limits pretty much across the board for the liability, which would bump you up to the next limit that the power plan offers. Increase to one of those sublimits of the public officials liability, which I refer to, the non-monetary defense coverage. And lastly, I had my underwriter run a quote to actually decrease the property, inland marine, and EDP deductible. Currently, you are at a $1,000 deductible for all of those sections. This would bring you down to a $500 deductible for any property-related claim. And you'll see the additional premium that would be related to that change. So, any questions on any of the program options or anything?
What was our total last year? Right about that same.
Last year, before any of the additional options, the premium was at $15,555. I believe our rate did not change this year. I believe the difference, the slight difference in premium was just related to some of those property updates that we had made. But the rate itself was fortunately stayed flat this year.
Larry, are you looking for approval on this tonight?
Well, it expires, what, the first week in November?
November 1st is our expiration.
We're kind of
Yep.
under the gun. Is there any grace period on that, or is it just,
We do have some flexibility as far as payment goes, if you need approval to print checks and so on. We realize that most townships meet either once or twice a month, and so depending on when you receive your proposal, it may fall on a weird week. If we were to have to go into November, I'm sure my underwriter would work with us as far as, renewing, again, effective the 1st, but not requiring,
Larry, I know in the past they have given us the extension on the meeting. We usually meet like November 3rd or something like that, just so we can look it over.
Right.
I mean, we got it today in our hands, and I wish we would get together maybe in September next year.
Yep.
Just so we have a little bit more time to look this over. But I know in the past, they've always reverted back to November 1st, but they let us look it over, and we approve it in the first meeting in November.
Yes, yeah. And again, that's more of an accounting thing, so
Right.
they have some flexibility on that end, as long as we're, as
That's
they
all yet.
believe the intention is to renew, and you're just reviewing maybe the options and things like that.
Right, just look over coverages and just to review it is all we do.
Right, yep.
it's an increase of $145.
Right.
But if you would grant us that, we would probably,
Yes,
Go
yeah,
to the,
and I know,
first
again, the
meeting in
timeliness
November.
of this, we're working on the end of the month already, so I don't see that being an issue at all.
do you want to do that then, Ann?
Yeah, I would like to make a motion that we accept the proposal, evaluate and come back, table it till our first week in November to make a decision. Support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported that we accept the proposal from Burnham and Flowers, and we will act on it at the first meeting in November.
Thank you very much.
Does everybody understand what we're doing? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you, John.
And for that premium breakdown, if you'd like to just let us know what exactly you need
For the
broken out.
add-ons?
Yep, we
Yeah.
can break that premium
I
out.
don't think we did many add-ons last year.
I'm not sure how we had done that in the past, so I would have to check with Gene on that,
I
but,
know we discussed it the last time, but I don't remember if we took any of them.
I don't think we did. We didn't take the terrorist, I know that.
Deductible, reduction, $1,000. property.
Which is reflected in this proposal now. Or is it
Doesn't have
5?
So I would have to look back to last year's proposal, but it may have been that last year, the property deductible was at the $2,500 limit, and we had switched that to $1,000. I know, usually that change in deductible is very minor in premium, and then so the next basically drop would be the current, which is 1,000 to 500. So if you'd like confirmation on that, I can first thing tomorrow morning check and see what options were selected last year.
And that's the $319?
That would be, yes, the current, which is 1,000 down to 500, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, John.
With your permission, I'll excuse
Yeah,
myself.
go ahead. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Got a long drive.
I know Cindy's got my info, so if you have questions, just give me a call.
We got your number. All right. Next, we're under new business, item 2, appeal to the Township Board, Rose Hill Cemetery burial in a family plot. You have it before you in your, under new business 2. Has the board had a chance to look at your package? The heirs of the William Thomas, who own 11 graves in Rose Hill Cemetery, appeal to the Board of Trustees regarding a decision granted by the Township Sexton on September 25th, 2019, to allow cremation burial in the Block 127, Lot 2, Grave 3, allowable by the East China Township Ordinance.
Good evening. How are you?
Good.
My name is Tammy McGuire. I was asked by 3 of the Tomlin children to present the appeal and then come and speak with you. In speaking with them, my understanding is that they feel that it's disrespectful to the people who are already buried there to disrupt their graves. And, you know, they've got parents there, obviously. Mr. Tomlin has asked that him and his wife be buried between their parents. However, there are 3 other children who feel that it's disrespectful to disrupt their burial. And in addition to that, the fact that there's grandparents, there's great-grandparents, there's great-aunts and uncles, that if the policy is that a family member can request to be buried where there is already family members buried, that is disrespectful to them. That if they wanted to have an additional person buried, that probably would have been a request that they made prior. So the position of 3 of the Tomlin children is that to allow someone, a third party, be it whoever that makes the request, to be able to disrupt a grave of someone who has already been buried there, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, it seems disrespectful to the family and disrespectful to the people who are previously buried and did not make that request. As I said, and I know that each of you have received my letter, rather lengthy letter. It was the understanding there was 3, there was nobody buried in 3, and Ms. Tomlin-Zielinski's husband passed away, and the 4 children at that time had said, you know, you don't have any children, we have children, we have family, you and your husband can be buried in the empty plot. And it was the understanding of at least the 3 children that I'm representing, that at that point all of the plots were filled and there would be no more burial. And then they found out by accident that there was a request made that their brother and his wife be buried together in one urn between their parents, which is how we ended up here. In addition, I'm not sure, in reading the ordinance, it says that you can have 1 cremains buried if there's also a casket buried. They're asking for 2 cremains to be buried in 1 urn, which, aside from the fact that, like I said, my clients feel that it's disrespectful just in general, that I'm not sure that it meets with the ordinance, at least in my reading of the ordinance. So I would appreciate if you took into consideration the fact that, you know, I know me as a person, if I was buried with my husband, I would not want my son-in-law, my daughter-in-law, my son, my niece, my nephew disturbing my remains so that they can be buried there also. So, thank you.
I have a couple questions before you
Yes.
go. So we have 4 plots next to each other, is that what we have?
There are
Yeah, sure.
11 altogether.
Yeah, but I don't
believe.
follow it, I don't, it's,
Is there 12? It looks like 11, they're saying 12.
Lot 127,
Yes.
lots 1, 2, 3, 4.
And lot 2 is where they are looking, between Dorothy and Norman Tomlin.
so there was all of them were full except for 1 plot,
Correct, except for 3,
except for 3. And
where
the mother
Mr.
and the father went into 3?
No, the mother and the father, the father was buried in 1987, the mother was buried in 2008. Approximately 5 years ago,
Upper right-hand corner.
Okay.
yeah, down in the corner is 3.
William Tomlin. Okay.
Charles Selinsky was buried there approximately 5 years ago. And his wife Gail was going to be buried with him. And at that point, it was understood that all of them were then full. I guess for lack of a better
Okay.
word.
And the plots were purchased in 1918,
1918, correct.
October 30th of 19,
Correct.
okay.
It's the town of Black.
And they would have been purchased then by William Tomlin, correct?
That is correct. And it's our understanding in speaking with funeral directors and that type of thing, that that plots pass down from generation to generation, being that there was an empty plot there, that it passed down, and the 4 Tomlin children are the next generation down.
Was there anything left in a will or anything left in anything stating anything at all?
Not that I'm aware of, but
Nothing at all?
But all the plots are full.
Okay.
There are remains in each plot.
yes.
And are the plots all full by siblings of the family, or is it?
All my great-grandfather, my grandfather, my mom and dad, and my great-aunts and uncles, and my sister's husband.
Okay. Okay.
If you have no further questions with her, I'd like to talk to you guys for a minute.
Yeah, if she's done,
Yeah.
we'll take turns here.
Is everyone finished with questions? I'm finished.
Yeah, you're gonna be here.
I'm just trying to cipher this.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Tranquita. I'm Craig Tomlin's oldest daughter. What happened was I called Mr. Sexton after my mom passed away on May 20th. Randy Young, said for me to call the cemetery and find out where our family plot was, which I found out it was Block 127. Sexton approved it on June 18th. It was completely approved. Everything was fine. We were gonna do a flush mount stone with 1 urn combining his ashes and my mom's ashes. Everything was approved. So this was all approved already. I don't even know why we're going through all this right now. So, I mean,
There's, yeah, us 3 are also siblings of Craig's.
but my father also is the oldest of the Tomlin sons and the oldest of the Tomlin family, and he deserves to be able to be there.
Is he the administrator of the estate?
That's what I was gonna ask. Who is the administrator of the estate?
Kayla's?
I'm Gail Tomlin-Slinsky. My husband has the one plot that was remaining there. He passed away 4.5, 5 years ago. And they agreed that since we didn't have children, that we could take the plot. And the stone's there with my name on it and my husband's name. I was the executor of my parents' estate. My brother, Gary, actually got the tombstone for my parents. We just, as a family, believe that we don't want to disrespect our parents. Our parents want to be together, if that makes sense, and now you want to dig in there. And we're not talking about a plate. We're talking about a full-fledged flat tombstone, the exact same one that's on my husband's grave. I guess we're asking you to consider how you would feel if it was your parents and somebody decided that they wanted to go between your parents. That's what we're having trouble trying to understand. Not only for us, but those plots were purchased in the 1900s. These people had no idea about cremation back then. And my mom and dad were both adept enough to know if they wanted one of us in there, they would have said it. And that's what we struggled with. Plus, it was all done without ever being informed.
But why was it okay for you to have Chuck there then?
Because everybody approved it.
Yeah, and that means.
She's got the floor.
But you had a chance to take that 5 years ago. You had a chance to take it whenever, because that plot was sitting there. It just, yes, it was there.
It was turned up all the time.
One person at a
Yeah,
time.
just one.
I'm sorry.
Gail's got
The plot was there, and it's been there. And when my husband passed away very suddenly, it was decided that, yes, we could use the
Who
plot.
decided, all four?
Yes,
I did. He had no choice.
Okay.
they called him, and he's said different stuff, so I'm not gonna go there. I don't wanna get involved in that, yes.
Ma'am, I have a brother that died,
Correct.
okay? He had called me a couple of years before he passed away, and he asked me, he says, is there any chance that Marine City will allow me to be buried between our mother and father? I said, I don't know, I'll call him and check with him. Marine City has said that's fine. So today, he's buried between my mother and my father. He's got a military plaque sitting on top of his grave. His grave takes no more space than this. Now, nobody asked my parents if anybody could be buried there. They've been
Is he a single, excuse me, was he married?
No.
Okay. I understand that then.
my mother's been there since 69, my dad's been there since 70.
Correct, and you're
So
talking,
nobody's asked them, they're all there yet, nobody's left. Okay, nobody's gotten upset, and he's just there today.
and he should be with his parents if he's the only child, or if you're also
Well,
a
I'm just
child,
saying,
but,
that's my situation.
Okay.
Put him there, and I checked with Marine City, I said, is it okay to put another grave, cremation, in between my parents' graves? They said, oh yeah, no problem.
but I think we need to look at the whole ordinances and things like that, because I think the three of us should have also been informed before this was all approved by the sexton, and we had no say in any of it, to at least present our opinions. And we have tried. We've been over to his house at least 2 times to talk about it, but we haven't gotten anywhere together. And that's why we're hopefully doing it for all the people that are in the cemetery there that don't want this to happen in the future.
But our ordinance says we can have one cremation on top of one direct burial.
But you're putting 2 in 1, so that's 2 in 1.
It says one cremation.
I'm having my own urn, and he has his urn.
Why, okay, what if it was just
Time out here for a minute. Blaine, were you aware that they were gonna bury these between, in other words, it'd be splitting the 2 lots? You said between your mother
Yes, it's
and dad.
between our mother and father.
So that would be splitting the lot, wouldn't it?
Correct.
That's no big deal.
Huh?
Based on either edge of the lot line.
Okay. And then in our ordinance also, I was reading in here that you can only have one marker per lot.
Correct, and my parents also have their headstone, and then they also have the military one at the foot of the grave. So they already have
Well,
two
they're
markers
splitting
there.
one probably. I know
Correct,
what to
it's
look
one
at.
big tombstone at the
Right.
head of the
And then you can
grave.
have one small one.
Correct,
You can't have one, you said they wanted to put one in the middle?
right, between the two
Did
graves.
you know that, Blaine? Is that, was
And
that
then
explained
it's-
to you, or is- I didn't hear anything about the stone.
I don't recall.
That's what my brother.
Does it have to be in the middle? Is there room on that plot for it to be on the side?
For the end?
I don't think that they necessarily asked for it to be in the middle, that's what they were told.
That's what we were told. If you want to see this letter?
Yeah, we can look at it, yeah.
We do have a picture of the.
Yeah, let me see that, that's gonna explain.
I think that's the confusion, is that they were told to put it in the middle.
This is our
That
parents'
wasn't-
headstone, and this
I mean, you
is
gotta
my
understand our
father's.
position
They're
when
gonna go
somebody,
between two
the other
with
three, when
another
somebody
tombstone
comes,
this size or bigger, 'cause
our
my
sexton doesn't
husband
know
has
that he's
that
got
too.
three siblings that,
this
I mean,
was
so
my mom and
he's
dad.
gonna make an opinion on that.
My brother's
Go on up on the,
cremation box.
wait till
this
Gail gets
big.
done here.
Wait till
It was
she gets
buried
done.
about this deep, right at the base of the, right on the line. Half on my mother's grave, half my father's grave.
Is the people in this grave here, is this a cremation or is this real?
These are real
Those are real.
caskets. All,
Both of them
everybody
are.
in there is a casket, other than my husband, that is a cremation.
And
Oh, he
these,
is a
this one
cremation?
here,
Yes,
And
Chuck
the-
is a cremation.
and this here is cremations
That's the military thing for my father. was
for the
in
father.
Marines.
And where are they gonna, where they wanna put it?
Put in the middle of our parents,
Like right here. That's where they want it.
yes. But I can.
I say it's like my brother, his is right up here.
This is your mother and dad's stone.
Two of them.
they're right
Yes,
there.
yes, and that's my dad's military. Yes, and these are all the old stones from the 1900s.
Right.
These are all of them. I took pictures of everyone, and on the back, they say who they
Just so
are
you
and
can
where
see
they're
it.
placed in our family file. And, this is my grandma and grandpa. And then in the back, they say where they're placed. I did take pictures.
All right, let's let Craig speak here while he's up there. Can I see that letter too? Go ahead, I'll read it, I'll give it back to you.
Ready?
Go ahead.
Oh, my name's Craig Tomlin. Jennifer, I had her appointed power of attorney. I got sick right after my wife died, and I was in the hospital. Be full power of attorney of my estate and everything. So she called the township to try to find out what options were available. This is what we were told. That's stated in the ordinance that's in the letter. And we assumed it was okay. We did not ask for this. So that's the reason we thought we could pursue it because it was going to be cremation. And it's not going to be just here in Michigan, it's also going to be in Florida. We're going to go 2 places.
What's that now?
Florida, we're going to divide the earn up between Michigan and Florida.
It's another twist.
No, I mean, you know,
So we're burying 2 half people there then?
Yes, yes. There's no catch going either.
That's
I have
it.
2 stones that I ordered from Randy Young, that one is gonna be here and one is gonna be in Florida. And whether he's here and she's in Florida, whatever, but this is, I've been on go mode since May, trying to figure this out.
Yeah.
And it was approved, and it should be.
Well, this was approved, but it also said in there that you have the right to, they have the right to appeal
Yeah.
in the letter.
Are you gonna be putting a stone in, then, where the urns are going? You're gonna put a stone above that?
We've purchased two,
2 stones.
and they're flush now, with my wife and my name on them. You know, as both dates.
And he probably will have a military stone too later on, because he was in the military.
Well, just a little mark.
I was wondering if I could say a few words. I'm the daughter of Wendy, and my dad's Bill. I feel that it's the siblings' decision. When my parents die, I know where they want to go. They don't want to be buried. I know that my grandparents probably wanted a gravestone, so that's why they got a plot. That's why they bought all the plots. So if they knew that they wanted somebody else with them, I would think that they would acknowledge that. But I feel that it should be all the siblings' decision, and that's how I feel, so.
Are you siblings?
I'm the daughter of Wendy.
Okay, so 2 daughters and the husband,
No, she's a granddaughter.
I'm a
the
granddaughter, yeah.
okay.
We're the three of Gary is my brother, Craig is my brother, this is my sister Gail, and then
Okay,
we're the family.
so you're the 3 siblings?
4.
4 siblings, 4 siblings, okay, okay.
Yeah. If I could address you, Board. My name's Gary Tomlin. I'm not the oldest of the family, nor should that make any difference at all. There are 4 of us, and my feeling is the 4 of us are kind of overseeing the special area where our family members have been buried, and we've tried to resolve this where we could all sit down as a family and talk about it, and it just didn't work out that way. We have 3 of us, myself and my 2 sisters, that feel those, for whatever reason, we just don't think those grave sites should be touched in any way. And, of course, my older brother doesn't agree with that. So we're in a dilemma here, and that's why we came to because that was our only option, to come here and talk to you. And,
May I say something as an outsider?
Sure, go up to the podium.
My name is Lynn Duran. I'm an East China Township resident. My parents moved to East China Township about 13 years ago. They purchased a plot at Rose Hill. My dad has been gone 9 years now, and my mom will be buried with him on that plot. And when I heard about this situation, all I could think about was, I would not want my parents' grave disturbed. How could this even happen? Like, just because another outside family member makes a request and the siblings don't know anything about it or have any say, that should be a family decision. So it's a township ordinance that needs to be clarified, and I think there needs to be some corrections and modifications made so it is spelled out. Because this is a terrible situation for this family on all the way around. It's horrible. I would not want another family to have to go through this at all. And I would hope that my parents' grave would never be disturbed. Thank you.
How many total siblings were there in the Tomlin? 4, so all 4 are still alive, the 4 siblings? They're all alive, okay.
Hi, my name's Matt Trankina. So when my wife was put in charge of this, and she was asking around, and she'd seen that Gail's husband was buried there, so she just thought that that was the family plot. She did not, they told her they'd put him in the middle. That necessarily was not where she wanted him to be. That's just where they end up putting her. If there was room to the side or somewhere else, I think that would be fine too, if that's the whole hiccup here. I don't think that this family meant to start a big problem. I think she's seen that Gail was there, Gail's husband was there, and that's the family plot. That's what they go.
Oh, we have,
So when they said that it was fine for her to have Craig there, that's where we're at, so.
I have a question. Since these were purchased 100 years ago, And through the years, how is it passed down to a family in this situation if you've got multiple siblings? I mean, if I was to purchase a plot, 4 plots, and I pass away, my wife passes away, how is it written anywhere that it's passed down to my children, or how is that dictated? We were talking 3 generations now, correct?
More than that.
4 generations, many generations. Who officially owns the plots?
I guess the family.
Where is that written?
Yeah, I don't think it is.
I'm Wendy. I'm the baby of the family. Who owns the plots are the people that are the deceased, that are in the graves. And I feel, and my sister and my brother, that we do not need to disturb them. That's their final resting place, period. That's how we feel. I just can't believe somebody would want to do something different. I was so upset when they said they wanted to go in between my parents. That's my parents. I mean, in between my parents, I don't understand. I don't understand their concept. I've tried, and I can't get it through my head. All I came up with is my mom did pass away in October. My mom was at that time that she could have been cremated. If she wanted to be with my dad, she could have been cremated and put with my dad at that time. They didn't want that. They wanted their own plots. And that's how I think we should respect them. That's just how I feel. And I understand what you're saying about your brother, but it's just your brother. It's not your brother and his wife. And I hope you understand how I feel. Thank you. We feel.
Wait, is there any intent on, I know we changed the cemetery rules probably 6, 8 years ago. We adopted what the MTA put out there. I think that's when the cremation on top of one another. Do you know when that came about, Cindy?
Your adoption of your ordinance, I know you reviewed and revised it in 2013.
Yeah, so about 5, 6 years ago.
You had revisions, 1980 to 1997 was a repeal and a revision. And to the question, the way it's written now, there are no questions. The plots are sold and assigned at the time of purchase. Burial rights can only be reassigned by the owner. But that's as it stands now.
The owner being the name on the plot?
On the plot, correct. If you try and interpret that back to 100 years ago, obviously that's impossible. So prior to ordinances, I don't think these issues were ever conceptualized.
I would think the intent, and this is my own personal opinion, would be why they allowed the cremation on top of one another is for like a husband and wife, if they wanted to be buried that way and not siblings. But I do know of a case up there where there's a brother who was buried a full burial, and the younger brother was cremated and buried on top of him.
So if you read our ordinance, it's specific about children. It's not specific about who the other person would be. So our sexton interprets the ordinance by the letter, and the letter says a cremation is allowed within the same burial. So it's not clear, if you want to attach a relationship to that. It's not in the ordinance, therefore that couldn't be interpreted by your sexton.
There's no definition there.
Well, there's no relationships. Like I say, if you look in there, the one section that talks about multiples in a plot specifically calls out children. They can be buried in the same plot, but it doesn't say anything further about who that second burial could be. And therefore, the board honestly doesn't look at the relationships. It looks at the ordinance.
If I may add just 2 more things. One is, I think I can speak on behalf of these 3. Nobody blames the sexton for his decision. I believe that the assumption was that he may not even have known how many siblings there were. I mean, how's he going to know that without somebody bringing that forth. And as far as the question goes about passing it down, this is not an area of law that I am familiar with. So looking it up, I was trying to answer that exact question. And the only thing I could find is how it passes down for an empty plot. And with an empty plot, the answer I was getting was that if it does pass down generation to generation, and it's basically whichever of that generation decides to be buried there owns it. You don't have to ask permission. But I could not find anything with respect to a plot that already has people buried in it, who owns it. And I would tend to agree that in that case, it would be whoever's buried there. So, thank you.
I think our ordinance does answer to a plot that's there, I think, is it 40 years? If there's no activity, it reverts back to the township?
Our ordinance in the revision of 2013 clarifies that
Right.
specifically. If it's vacant for a certain number of years, we have the opportunity to reclaim that.
And in 2013, we realized we had a lot of problems when the cemetery, for just like what Herb was asking, you know, how do you pass this stuff down? And that's why we initiated the sexton before Blaine to
So that makes
go
sense
through all that.
with what you're saying, but what you're not saying, what answer I'm not giving is, these remains have been in there since. Now, my mom was the last to pass away. How many years before you can do
Yeah.
that again? That's not in there.
Well, no, there was activity there, though, on that plot when your dad died. You know,
No, my mom.
and that was within 40 years. I mean, if there's, we've got plots up there in the old part that haven't had activity for years. Huh?
What if there's somebody already in it? Already in the plot? What if that's?
According to Randy, to do a cremation, to do a burial, it's only a few feet down. It's not gonna affect anybody's caskets, anything like that.
It's still disturbing.
It's not disturbing because it's not hitting their caskets.
But it was already buried there, and I don't understand why we can't do another plot for them, because all the other plots are taken. So why can't Uncle Craig and Sandy be buried together in their own plot, with their own statue?
Because this is a Tomlin plot, and my father is a Tomlin.
But so are we. So are we, but we don't.
Just other people passed away first, so then they got the other plot that was empty.
You know, the way I kind of look at this is, I think back in 1918, you know, William Tomlin was trying to do the right thing. He was really trying to help his family, help his siblings, and everybody goes. So he went out and bought 12 plots. That's why I asked how many siblings there were. So if there's 4 siblings with their spouses, that's 8, and them 2 are 10, and he had 12 plots. But I think originally, he started out to do the right thing. He really wanted this, and I don't know how happy he'd be right now with everything going on. But his intent was to make sure that all his siblings were taken care of and their immediate families were taken care of. That's why he bought the 12 plots. Unfortunately, back in 1918, they didn't have cremations, so that's why he bought plots for each person. If he knew about cremations, then he would have done something separately. But the reason he bought those 12 plots was to make sure that his family was taken care of and that the families have a place to rest at the end, which I think every father would want to do for their kids.
And can I add, the reason he did buy the plots is my father, his mother died a year after he was born. So he was raised by his grandfather.
Yes.
So that's when that plot was purchased. And the great aunts and uncles that are there are his children.
Right.
Yes. And the one empty plot was his one son that is now buried across the state with his brother. So,
And again, I can understand that. It's just unfortunate that, I mean, I don't know if there's another plot that's close by there that is attached to the Tomlin estate, and there's nothing available there. There's nothing. Yeah.
What's that?
Another plot, you're right.
There is?
No, I truly don't believe that this was meant to be stepping on people. I don't think that we thought that we were going to do, this was going to be an issue. This, when they got the plot, this is where it said he was going to be buried. If it was to the right or to the left or somewhere close by, I think it would be fine too. I don't think that's.
Do we know of anything close by, Blaine, do you? Okay.
I mean, and then again, the other issue is who owns the plot. I mean, it's, I know in instances when they have an executor or when they have somebody who has the power of attorney, the reason they're giving the person that power of attorney is to make decisions when the deceased is gone. So, again, it's just, we're not very clear in our ordinance to determine, you know, who owns that plot or who didn't own that plot. But I know William Tomlin back in 1918 wanted his family to be taken care of, so.
I'm reading this.
Yeah, that's,
What
that's what I read.
You read that in there and it says,
Yep.
East China Township Cemetery in the town of East China for the right of burial and cemetery purposes, and to be used exclusively for the right and purpose of said, and subject to the conditions of the charter of said grantor, which would be the township, and all revisions thereof and amendments that are made to, that may be made thereto, and subject to the ordinance of the Township Board of Health, which we haven't had a Board of Health, which is this board, and the rules, regulations, and bylaws of its Township Board of Health, now forever, or now in force. It's hard reading this. So, I mean, it sounds like the township had some idea that as the rules change, he's agreed to that. Your great-grandfather, is that who signed this?
Well, when we were talking about ownership, my mom and dad had a will, and in that will, everything was divided equally between. So, I feel that we all own it. In that will, it was stated, everything was equally between the 4 children. And may I say, now, he wants to be buried there. What if I wanted to be buried by my mom?
Craig, would a lot close to them be acceptable to you, a double lot or something like that?
I would consider.
So is that what the problem is?
No, it's not, because I wouldn't do it, but I'm just setting as an example. You shouldn't allow.
We didn't ask.
What part of the cemetery is this in? Is it in the middle there, or?
It's gonna be the real old section. It's gonna be in the real old section.
Off the middle, so there's probably a lot of graves in there. We'd have to look at if there's anything close.
Is this unheard of, though, of people being cremated and putting in the, is this the only case like this? So this happens a lot. If the family, so if the family bought a set of plots and thinking, like, if I bought something for my kids, this is where my family's going to be buried, and especially if they're going to be cremated, where there's not going to be digging down, that's gotta happen a lot. There's gotta be quite a bit in there.
But now the new rules, you have to have a name on each. When you buy plots in this township, you have to sign a name. If I want to buy one, I got to put whoever I want on those 6 lots. I have to put their name, and that's who's going to be buried there, unless something happens, and then we can transfer them. Isn't there a,
Only the owner can transfer.
yeah. But it has to be done, there'll only be one person in that plot, I guess.
But is part of the problem not necessarily that it happened, like in your case, it sounds like you agreed that that for your brother to be buried there was a good idea.
Yeah.
It should be a family decision.
Nobody's complaining.
Yes, that's a good idea, and they went to the sexton and said, hey, we would like, if it met with the ordinance, then I completely agree. I think where the problem lies is that what makes one child to be able to unilaterally decide, I should be buried with my parents, even if my siblings, who are just as important, whether they're older or younger, say, I really don't think disturbing mom and dad's grave is a good idea. I think that's where the problem lies. If they all agreed and it was within the ordinance, then by all means, and that's why.
But it doesn't say anything in the ordinance if we all agree.
We would have to write our
And
ordinances.
that's where it comes down to, well, who gets to make that decision
Right.
on a plot where people are already buried? Not an empty plot where it's like, okay, who owns this plot? Somebody needs to be buried there. This is a plot where 2 people are already resting. And I think that's where the problem is coming in.
Yeah, I just think it was a family plot, so I think
It
we
was the
assumed
Tomlin family plot.
that this was going to be okay. I think that was the thing.
I didn't think I needed to even ask anybody a question after my mom passed away. I was on go mode. I called the cemetery. I got it approved through the township. It's a Tomlin family plot. He's a Tomlin. Now you got Gail's husband, who's there on the plot, who's a Solinsky.
But
He's
he
not
could
even a
have had
Tomlin.
that 5 years ago.
It's on
So-
who died first, it's not.
I would rather have a husband here than this.
Okay, let's keep it a little bit.
And I'm not trying to argue, and
Right,
I'm just
right.
saying though,
Well, let's try and find a solution to this
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's-
that's
that's the
applicable
whole
to
thing.
everybody. I know you got a lot of strong feelings here with all of yous.
I think you guys.
This board, whatever decision we make, I mean, I'm gonna represent what the ordinance is and what our sexton supported. I cannot vote to go against the ordinance. But I think this board is in agreement that we would like to find a solution to this. If we could find a gravesite that was close. I have the same thing in my family, you know.
I know.
Mine's full and I don't, there's none there for me, but I'm gonna buy some myself. And that's
Well, you
probably
never
what the rest of you,
plan on
huh?
it. You never plan on it, like me, I never.
Well, yeah, nobody wants to think about doing that, I mean, but we're all getting to that age where we're gonna have to start
So
thinking
our
about it.
major problem is we don't know exactly who owned it, but in our will, everything was passed down to the four of us. So it's four of our decisions, it's the four of us decisions, not just one. That's what it was down.
Well, I also talked to Randy Young, as you did, about this very case. And he referred me, if we need him, there's a attorney that specializes in this kind of stuff. And he's said he would give us the name for it, but do we want to go through all this legal stuff?
well, that's why
This is,
I don't wanna.
I mean, you're gonna eat up the cost in attorney fees that what, I mean, our graves are, to a residence, only $350.
Yeah, I know.
I mean,
It's just pretty
if-
sad to have to fight.
I know what you're saying, and I agree with you too. You know, it is a family plot, but to me, it looks like the plot is pretty much filled. So
Yeah, there's,
if we could look around for a site, if that's a solution, I'm willing to have Blaine go through and see what sites are available. If not, I think I'm gonna lean towards the ordinance that says, you know, one internment on top of it. That's why we put it, but now you're talking about two people now, that's a whole different ballgame. So maybe to settle this, it may be better to buy one plot, or, you know, you could buy one plot and have two internments on there, and you're all done. And you can put your own headstone, you can put your military monument, if we can get something really close. Let's see what we can come up with. I mean, it's a big cemetery, there's a lot of empty lots.
well, I want an older section.
You want to be in the older section, and there's a lot of them in there. A lot of them. I don't know exactly where it is, but I'm sure Blaine does. I mean, I'm just throwing that out as a solution.
The other, as far as ordinance goes, I believe you said that you can only have two stones, one stone per.
Yeah, and then
And
there,
they already have two stones
no, I'm saying if we go to a
there.
separate,
Right, but I mean, if you decide.
yeah, that will be
to
the next
decide-
issue, would be these stones that you're talking about.
Oh, it's one stone, two people on it.
Yeah,
But I thought wasn't there a second stone?
Yes,
that's for Florida.
No, there's a second military stone on their plaque.
Well, he said just a little plaque. I think we should look at finding a site that's close to it. But I mean, it's not gonna satisfy you. I mean, because you're saying it's a Tomlin plot, but they're Tomlins too. I mean, where's their right?
Close by.
I mean, life's too short to have all this battle, I'm
Well,
telling
I
you.
don't need it, I'm recuperating myself.
Yep, you're just gonna ruin your health that you have now. Is that a suggestion that we could look at, or, I mean, how do the rest of you feel?
We would like that our family plot allow Gail to be with her husband, which makes sense. And to have it so whatever we have to fill out, that nobody can do this again in the family plot, so.
Well, you're going against our ordinance.
But can you
Well,
close
you
the
don't
plot?
have to worry about it.
I've never, there's nothing in the ordinance that says close the plot.
The ordinance doesn't provide for closing a plot.
I
the way
think
that it's
that too,
written now.
that people can go visit Uncle Craig and Aunt Sandy together at their gravesite.
Yeah, maybe 1,200 miles.
Are you guys in favor of doing that, looking for another site?
I would like to try to find a solution. I mean, it's just, it's a sad thing. It
I
really
mean,
is.
Craig's
It's-
agreeable to that. What do you think, Herb?
Let's go ahead.
Deb?
Yeah.
Let's go ahead.
Well, it depends if the family has time. The family's got to agree.
I mean, you're here for an answer to this appeal. I mean,
Well, that should have been in 30 days, but we're,
I mean, it isn't like we have to have this today or tomorrow. I mean,
no, because I got the urinal
yeah.
ashes.
Is there a time frame that we have to have this settled in, Cindy? Is there a time frame that we have to give them a written answer? Wasn't that in the ordinance?
Well, they've already filed their appeal, that's what we're here for today.
Right.
And we've answered them that their appeal will be heard within 10 days. The board needs to make a decision as to grant the appeal or uphold the sexton's decision.
Or table? Do we have enough time to table,
Excuse me, postpone.
postpone?
It's a hearing for an appeal.
I didn't think there was there a time frame? I did not see that.
There's not, it's at the pleasure of the board. There's nothing written, but I would formalize it as either postponing the decision to the appeal or asking that they withdraw the appeal and have another solution.
There's no time limit for, it says the township has at least 10 days prior written notice of the meeting at which the township board will address the matter unless an emergency is involved. So there's no time limit for the decision.
Right, we were notified and you're addressing it, there's
Right.
nothing, I don't think, you don't have a problem with it, trying to find another place and take care of the decision, correct? So I,
All right, I'd say we.
So what do you want to do then? Withdraw your appeal and then,
I don't know if they need to withdraw the appeal. All we got to do is postpone it.
all right, well, let's just postpone it till the next meeting.
Yeah, and you try to get the information to.
We'll have the information by then. And maybe I can call that attorney and get an opinion from that as far as to help you guys on who owns it. Huh?
Yeah, I just paid for 2 stones, I got them sitting over
The Randy's already.
I did talk to Randy also.
Yeah, I talked to him too the other day about
Yeah,
it.
but we, so did we.
Yeah.
Okay.
Randy told me to call a lawyer.
I would just like
Yeah,
to say,
go
give
ahead.
us 2 weeks to get an opinion, and then hopefully we can work something out.
One final thing to say, I want to thank all of you because, you know, sometimes there's problems and you people are trying to find the solution. And I thank you for that, I really do, because sometimes
Sometimes the decisions we make
gets
upsets,
Right.
nobody's happy with, somebody's not happy with it, you know? And I know all yous.
And one of the things that happens is that ordinances get reviewed periodically, and they get updated because of things like this. So until things like this happen, we have to go with what we have, but then it's also an opportunity to look at the ordinance, and maybe they need to be revised.
And we can't review it now,
But
we gotta live with what we
We can't change the
have.
ordinance right now.
But we can look at the ordinance and,
And we were told that could be a
if you
positive
had a
thing.
great need, then want to be buried.
It becomes an issue of definition of,
I mean, the ownership is a big
The
question,
ownership
which
becomes
we
a big
don't have
issue.
the answer to. I mean, it's,
How would you get ownership?
well, the person that paid for it, I would say to be the owner, but,
Yep.
that would be my interpretation of it, but,
That sounds good.
okay. All right, thank you for.
Thank you, and I hope we can get this resolved, really make everybody move on. Thank you very much.
Put on the agenda in 2 weeks. Holy cow, where are we? I'm all lost. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to new business item 3, St. Clair Area Fire Authority invoice. This is the invoice we got from the St. Clair Fire Department. We've gotten this, over the years, we've had it. We get it every year. I usually sign it because we're part of the authority, but we thought, Cindy thought maybe we should start a new practice and bring this before the board and vote on it so everybody knows what we're paying. It's always in the bills paid, but sometimes you may not see it. So what we're asking for is the authority to have me sign that.
And this is something that we do every
We
year?
get every-
This has
and
nothing
it-
to do with the other stuff that's going on?
Nope, this is, just has to do with, our percentage of runs into the township, and they divide it up, between the 4 townships, and it's cost average over 3 years, and that's what we have to pay for. These are all the runs that go in to run the fire department.
I would move that we approve the payment of $94,018 to the St. Clair Area Fire Authority for fire runs for the 2019-2020 budget year.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion and support to allow me to sign the St. Clair Area Fire Authority invoice. Is there any further questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Three hands votes yes. Ms. Babel?
Yes.
Mr. Blackstock?
Yes.
Mr. Vatsalas?
Yes.
Mr. Boda?
Yes?
Motion carries, we sign the invoice.
Larry, can I just pull in for 1
Sure.
second? Cindy, on number 2 now, that we tabled that, should we have a motion or anything for that, or, do we need anything for that? Because we really didn't make a motion, we just told them to come back in 2 weeks.
No, we did not have a motion to postpone.
All right, then we should probably make one.
Yeah, I think we should just have something on
All
record.
right.
I'll make a motion that we postpone the appeal to the Township Board for the Rose Hill Cemetery burials and the family plot till our meeting in November.
I support.
We have a motion to postpone the appeals for the Township Board on Rose Hill Cemetery family plot. Any further questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, now we're moving on to item 4, Marine City Area Fire Authority Intergovernmental Agreement. And what this is we're changing some of the bylaws in the Marine City agreement, and that has to do with extending the sunset date, eliminating, we had it in there that the city of Marine City would supply the clerical to do that. We've hence hired our own clerical to do that now. And the other is just little language cleanup. The intent is still the same, but to make the agreement more, interpretable. And that was, we had that, the Marine City Fire Authority, we hired Attorney Robert Charles Davis to go through the whole agreement. I also sent this agreement to our attorney, and she's in agreement that there's nothing here that's really detrimental to us. You have anything to add to that, Mr. Bowden? No? I said, do you have anything to add to it?
No, I can't remember how many years it was it 20, 25 years? of
Yeah,
extension?
we're extending it out to 2035.
20, 30.
And the reason we're doing that is because if we have to go borrow money and the fire authority, and you want to take a 10 or 15 or 20-year loan out, no bank's going to give you a loan when the thing could all be done in 5 or 10 years, because it was set to expire, I think, in 2025. So what we're asking for is to allow the representatives, Mr. Boda and I, to sign on that fire authority.
It'll look good to both of you then, because you're our
Yeah, it
representatives
looks
on
good
board.
to me.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Fire Authority intergovernmental agreement with Marine City as provided.
Support.
Okay, the motion would be to approve.
To allow the,
To Mr. Boda and Mr. Simons to
sign it?
the intergovernmental.
Okay, I'll make that motion for Mr. Boda and Simons to sign the intergovernmental agreement with Marine City.
okay, does everybody understand the motion? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Moving on to the request form DTE for exemption from ECT Code and Ordinance 453-25. Cindy, do you want to speak to that, or is it pretty?
It is straightforward. I think what really is happening here is that we are allowing an exemption, and it's an industrial meter, it's an industrial situation, and our ordinance is really written for residential, requiring that meter to be close to the point of service, and it's just not possible in some industrial situations, and I believe that it's already in place in some, but they have just never gone through this formal process of acknowledging there's an ordinance and allowing an exemption.
And they presented us with this diagram, and our DPW supervisor has looked at it, and you were fine with it, Blaine? So that's the main meter there on the left, and then they're gonna divide it off into separate meters. And do they pay for all those meters too, don't they? Yeah, we don't have no expense, and we'll just be billing them off the master meter.
We'll be going off the master meter, the sewage meter, and the water meter at the DEP per unit. There's a master meter at the road going into the water energy center and the DEP per unit, which will have their own separate meters.
And the reason for that one is because some of that doesn't go to our sewage.
Correct.
And so we won't be charging them a sewer rate, we'll be charging on that sewer meter.
Yes.
Okay. So what we're asking here is
I move that we allow the exemption from the township, from the township's Code of Ordinances, Chapter 453, Section 25B, to allow DTE, Blue Water Energy Center, their meter locations.
I'll support.
Okay, we have a motion, and we have a support to allow the request from DTE for exemption from the East China Code of Ordinances 453-25. Does everybody understand? Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item 6, cleaning service contract for the Township Hall. Cindy, I'm going to let you present that.
When I gave you the packet, it just had a cover sheet that said more details will be available today. I did hand that out as well. We did have solicitation for bids go out. We received 2 replies, and this is the one that I would recommend. In case you're not aware, our cleaning service was an employee, and that employee has discontinued that service as of September.
Now, what are these, like carpet cleaning and the once a year in here?
So I asked for options. If we do opt to have some of these services, then we can.
Oh, that's what we pay for them if we have
Those
them
would be
done?
optional. The highlighted number is the cost that I'm asking for you to consider today.
The 473.
Correct.
And I think Cindy crunched the numbers on it, and by the time we did what we had to do to hire an employee or something like that, this is a good deal.
I'll make a motion that the township take and pay Jim Trump, owner of the company, $473, not to exceed $473.
Do we have to include anything about these extras if we want, or this is just a phone call?
Yeah, this is just to get us that monthly cleaning contract. We initially had offered in the bid to require a 3-year contract, but they're open to a 1-year contract as well. And Mike suggested.
So we're gonna do a 1 year, try them out?
Right.
Okay,
I believe so.
sounds good. And when will this take effect, the 1st of November?
As soon as we can, I'm sure, as soon as they get us on their schedule.
Well, we've been a month without Kathy,
Handle it.
starting to mount up.
I'll support.
All right, we have a motion, we have a support to hire a dependable cleaning company not to exceed $473 per month. Any further questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Potzallis?
Yes.
Mr. Boda?
Yes.
Mr. Simons?
Yes.
Freehand votes yes. Mr. Blackstock?
Yes.
Ms. Babel?
Yes.
Motion carries, we hired the cleaning services. Before we go to the last thing, which I know some people are here waiting for, Cindy, do you have anything to report? Or do you have anything you want to speak on, or no?
No.
Okay. I just want to give you the opportunity. I didn't want to forget it. All right, next, old business, Bell River Sewer refunds. This was submitted by Cindy Paparelli, Township Manager. Oops, I'm on the wrong one here. Still submitted by her. Wrong one again.
I would ask that you look at the resolution, and we talked, I think, a little bit about trying to encapsulate a whole lot into one resolution. So a second and third set of eyes, make sure that it meets the intent that you gave us.
And the last page is the one that's got it all broke down to what we're doing here. Do you want to explain anything, Cindy, about, we're just acting on the resolution that was put back in, what, 1993 or 94? 94.
I think the idea was to get it all in one place. The loose ends are tied up with several resolutions that are decades old, and that we can somehow keep track of anything that is still open, which there's only a couple of small issues that will still be open, and we can record this, and this will be some document then that can be referenced in that case.
And what will if somebody else taps onto that sewer, what will they pay, the same footage price, the $54? If a new person were to tap on, like say on the east side of the road, what would they pay the half the price?
Whatever I don't think that was addressed in any of the regulations. I'm only trying to address the open ones. I don't know. What does it say?
Well, really, there's only the three left there, which would be you guys, the Joneses, and the Breton property. There's no more lots there, right? On that side. On the west side, there'd be no more lots on that side.
Okay, so the resolution that calls out those three lots, does that cover what we're talking about?
I believe it would. They would have to pay the $54 a foot then.
$50.14.
$50 and,
14 cents.
okay. Does that answer your question, Jerry? Okay. Did you guys have a copy of that? Did you see what?
Did you get a chance to read it? And I would be happy to share that with you because I'm looking for other eyes to make sure that it makes sense, because I'm trying to piece it together. Is that okay?
Yeah, oh, yeah, it's kind of small print, but
It's really this section here. It's really restating all the other resolutions from the past.
and the five payments would be $579, $579, $1,300, $1,300, and $2,600. And some change for a total of $6,441.70 to five people, which would close that out.
This is 25% of these figures.
We've actually collected the 77, we're 77,000 over, correct?
The last one there, how does that affect
What's that?
On the last, you have three pieces of property listed there.
The Breton. The Breton only has half his property left. He sold off the other half to,
But
to-
the Britons are, acquired to them are no longer.
right, so the property owner, once their septic system fails and the Joneses or Bretons tap in, at that point, they'll have to pay the $50.14. The property,
Right.
correct.
It goes to the parcel,
The parcel number, yeah.
whoever owns
Do
it.
I have the parcel numbers on the?
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, but it hasn't been called out.
Okay, the original, I think we're listing original property
Yeah,
owners
originally that's
for
how it was
reference.
listed, I think, yeah.
And as you said, that's done just for reference purposes because it's actually the property description.
So this is just clearing up the financial part of it. The other three pieces are just still under the resolution, correct?
Yes.
Well, this resolution will, keeps that in force.
Right.
There's three parts. It keeps that in force. It closes out payments due of the refunds.
So there'd be no more money transfers anywheres in this unless
The property is sold.
they have, the property is sold and they have to, is it Jones if it's sold or it fails, right? Is that how that reads?
Well, that's the one part that we don't agree with, on here, how long it's been when you tap in, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
Every precedent that you, every precedent in the township has, payment is made when the connection is made. Gabler, Simon, Beelan, those properties were sold, Benda's property was sold, Britton's property was sold twice. It was when it was upon connection. We can live with upon connection. We object to the split or sale.
The what?
Split or sale of said property.
That hasn't changed from the regular resolution, has it?
I don't have my
the original
copies.
doesn't say that.
And you have no address. And I very much appreciate the phone calls that you could be here.
Well, we told you we'd tell you.
And yes, you did.
We're not trying to do it, we're just trying to be, just as we did over here. This is it should have never been done this way. It was done that way, we're dealing
On
with.
number 3 on page 196, any parcel split or division of the parcel numbers R59C4, R579C2, and R579C3B shall pay prior to connection the prorated cost of construction of the 10-inch sewer main.
Prior to connection.
Yeah, shall pay.
Yeah,
prior-
the
prior
parcel
to-
split or division.
What page are you on?
196,
196.
number 3.
Number 3, any parcel split or division shall pay prior to connection.
Shall pay what?
Prior to connection, so when you say I'm gonna connect, you pay.
When you split.
No, when you split.
When you split or divide the property.
Any split or division shall pay prior to connection.
Well, in other words, when you split it, you're splitting it to build a house on it. What would you sell the property for not to build a house on it? Correct? I mean,
What?
would you sell the property to somebody? When they hook onto the sewer, they gotta pay for it.
Exactly. When they hook onto the sewer, they can pay for it.
We're not asking you to pay for anything now, only as if you sell the property, then,
Not if I sell it. If I sell my property in one chunk, I have one connection, one house.
Are you selling your property with the sewer on it? Are you selling your property with the sewer on it? Because you had $23,000 when you did connect into the sewer, correct? And then you took out the connection and you put it on the other side.
Wait, what? Our contractor connected to the wrong side. We changed that. I was reading during this, in
Yeah.
2000, you guys came and changed that. Now, let's go back to the original ordinance here that says split or division pays prior to connection. That's all we're asking. We don't like that we were never involved in this, but that's what it says. But we keep changing things, and here we are,
It
25.
doesn't say anything about selling.
Yeah, page 196, number 3, Angelo, doesn't say sale. It says split or division shall pay prior to connection.
Well, I feel that if you sell your property, you're gaining your value from the property, just like every other property owner did. That's why they weren't charged for it. So you're gaining the value of that, so you have to pay that money back to the township. And basically what you're telling us, Marie, is that you're not gonna pay for that sewer if you sell it. Right? You're not paying for 450 feet of that sewer.
If the house.
Because you're making the money, you're regaining the money from that.
If the
How do I gain any money selling it in one piece?
If the house is sold.
If you sold that with no sewer on it, how much money would you get for it? And you know how much the value of the sewer increases the value of your property. And that's why the other people are not getting a refund on this. The Wiles aren't getting a refund on this, because when they sold it, they gained the money that they did. Same thing with Horton. He's getting no money back, because when he sold it, he got the gain of the property for having the sewer. All we're doing is putting you in that same situation. We're not asking you to pay nothing right now. All we're saying is when you do sell it and you get that gain, please pay the township back. That's all we're saying.
All we're saying is if we sell the house with one connection, there is no additional gain for that sewer.
There is an additional gain, because the person that buys it will split it. Go to the podium, because I want the people to hear this. Go to the podium.
Calm down, we're all right here.
Marie St. James, 2463 Bell River Road. We disagree with the way the ordinance is being presented, because per page 196, the wording is, can I have the wording? The wording is on number 3, any parcel split or division of parcel numbers shall pay prior to connection, period. We paid for the sewer in 1993. That's where we got to. In 1993, we wouldn't expect to be here talking about our parcel. We have one connection, one house. If we were to sell the one connection with the one house, there's no additional benefit to that other sewer. That's our position. If we split it and prior to connection, we understand the costs involved. That's what we're saying also. Splitting it, connecting to the sewer, that's the precedent that's been set in the township. With the sale of properties at Britton's, were sold twice. Harris has sold their property to Benda's. Vanderwerp sold property to Simons and somebody else sold some property to Donnie and Donnie Beelan. Those properties have been sold multiple times. People pay on connection. And that's what the ordinance says on number 196 with the resolution number 3, prior to connection. That's all we're asking for. Thank you.
None of the people that you mentioned from across the street are getting a refund back because they paid for their full sewer to go across their full, complete property, so that is why there was nothing involved. At the time the sewer was run, you were an original owner on that sewer. And all we're asking is at the time you run your sewer and you gain the money back from selling your property, that you pay the township back that money. Your sewer was run without approval of the township board.
See, Gabler, when he bought part of the Brettons, he's
He
paid
paid
for the
for it.
sewer.
He paid for $50.14 for the whole portion of his property.
And as far as Brettons, I think that was probably an error on the township. Because of this agreement, people don't even know about it. We've changed so many people in this township that these resolutions that were put in 30 years ago, how do you expect our people to know all this? Now we're gonna put it on the BSNA. This is gonna be on, so when these properties are exchanged, sold, split, whatever, it's gonna pop right up there in front of am I correct there, Cindy? And that's what we're doing with putting these on the BSNA and on the county website for these properties?
I believe we're gonna record them at the county.
Record them, yeah.
And we will attach
So-
them to the parcels in assessing and wherever else we can.
I mean,
Again, we're not asking you to pay for anything now. We're not asking you to pay for anything until you split the property. But when you sell it, I do believe it's your due diligence to pay the money you're gonna make on the sewer, to pay back the township the small sum that it's gonna cost to run
and
that.
that's
that
what
we
the
talked-
original ordinance said.
And that's,
when
and that's what it was
sale
supposed to
or-
be. Everybody was supposed to pay for that sewer. I mean, there was nowhere in there that said, we don't have
The
to pay
ordinance
for it.
reads a little gray. I agree with you 100%.
You're citing this ordinance. It doesn't say sale, it says any parcel split or division of parcel numbers shall pay prior to connection. It says it there.
All we're asking is what we've done for every other property owner in East China to do the same for you. Why should there be, everybody that has paid, ran their sewer,
You want to attach this to a sale.
because at that point, you recoup the money just like every other property owner has.
Well, I don't agree that you're gonna get, if we sell that in one piece, I don't think the value's 23,000 more. That's it there.
With 460 feet of sewer, you don't think your value is gonna go up
Well, what happens
23,000?
if we sell it then? When does the township recover their money?
When they, when
yeah,
someone
we're
else
attached
connects,
to it.
when someone else connects to it. If someone can, if it gets split and someone connects to it, the same is, the same as the properties across.
So how much are they gonna pay? They're gonna pay the 23,000?
I would think they would pay whatever part they split. I mean,
Yeah, but it doesn't say anything in the ordinance if you split off 150 feet or you split off 400.
agreed,
Yeah.
but,
You couldn't split
I mean, we can all read what we want into this agreement.
right, but when Vanderwerf split his property, how much did Simons pay, how much did Dealings pay? They paid for the linear.
They paid their $25 a foot or something like that, whatever the,
Well, they paid 75% of the $50.
right.
We're not here to, we're not here to disagree with you following the ordinance that you said you're gonna pay the property owners back. That's not what we're here to, that's not what we're disagreeing with. We're disagreeing with the fact that you're trying to attach this to the sale of our property. There's no additional benefit of that sewer until there's another connection to it.
Or until you sell it.
Until there's another connection to it. I don't see how there can be any other additional benefit. You have one house, one sewer, going to the agreed upon price, go to the agreed upon place that we purchased in 1993, 7 years prior to us building. 2 years prior to people coming and asking to pull it down the rest of our property. But we had signed an easement, so that's why it could go down the rest of it.
Yeah, see, I disagree with all that easement stuff too. It should have went on the other side of the road.
No.
But it didn't.
But here we
But it
are.
didn't. Yeah, I
That's
know.
the thing. Here we are.
Yeah, well, I don't think this is any cost to you guys if we do it this way.
If you put a lien on our property.
We're not
We're not putting a lien on your
property.
property. We're not putting a lien.
If you put something on a county record,
We're not putting no lien. Nobody said, it. You
There's
said
no
lien.
lien,
Nobody
there's
said
nothing
lien.
like that.
I just said we're putting, it'll be a record that this resolution exists, not for just use, but for the other two. That's how it gets passed by us here at the township. Okay, what's the,
Question I have, this prorated cost, I'm assuming is the $50 and $14, or $50.14 a foot?
Yes.
So what is the on-pro rate, or the on-prorated cost, I guess, why are we paying? So you, homeowners that are there still are paying, they're getting a 25% money back, which is fine, but that's what the way it's written. Why are we excluded from that, or if we do sell it and have to pay for that frontage, why wouldn't we get a 25% discount on that?
Because you're gaining, you're gaining the income from running the sewer. You're gaining,
Too, when you sell yours.
pardon me?
You will gain it too when you sell yours.
Yeah, but we put our money up front to have that sewer run. I'm still paying $50.14. I'm just getting the extra money that we paid back. We paid more than $50.14. We're just getting the extra coming back right now.
what?
Where does it say?
And that's, the people that ran the sewer, we put up $60,000. When we ran that sewer, we put up, the three owners had put up the money for that, for the partial of that sewer. And that's what's going, we paid the same amount of money as everybody else did. We're not getting off any easier.
You paid more than $50 a lineal foot? Where does that say that in the?
It's probably, look into your books in there. We're not getting it back because we didn't pay that money, or we're getting it. The people across the street will get 75%
They're paying.
when they tap in.
Correct.
Right,
Yes, that's what the ordinance said, is 75% of the $50.14.
right.
And the ordinance said that the three property owners paid $50.14.
Do you know what the total cost of the sewer was to run it?
No, I don't.
Okay, well, I think you should look that up. The township gave 63,000. The balance was paid by the three other people.
Yeah,
Okay.
the township put that.
Put
Anyway,
63
like
up.
Jerry says, how we got here, we can all debate whether it's
Exactly.
bad or ugly.
Yeah.
But here we are.
Right.
And Jerry.
And we're just trying to be fair to everybody, Marie. All we're trying to do is charge everybody the same amount of money. And that's what we're trying to get done. And the people that derive a direct benefit from the sewer, as our attorney has said, shall pay for the sewer. So all I'm saying is, you know very well, having that sewer run across the property has increased the value of your property
If we sell
tremendously.
a house with one connection, there is no difference whether there's a sewer on the other 400 feet. With one connection to one house, that's it. And if we sell it like that, that's one connection. If we split it and connect a bunch of times, yeah, then we pay for it. But that's not what this resolution is suggesting. This resolution is suggesting a split for sale. And
Is that the original resolution?
that's this one here that's in this one. That's the one you're talking about today. Number 18, 2019.
Yeah, I think your property is gonna be worth more money with the sewer all the way across it, even if you were to sell it as
Way
one
more money,
lump chunk.
way more money.
I mean, that's my opinion. I mean,
But
you can call a
have your
realtor.
opinion, you can-
What's that?
Yes, you can have your opinion.
That's, I said it was my opinion, that's all I'm saying.
And all I'm saying is, Kim Wilde did the same thing. When he sold his property, he paid for the sewer, and when he sold his property, he's
Yeah,
not
you gotta
getting
go
a
back to
kickback
the
back.
podium if you wanna talk more about this.
Well, I understand, well, even go for Walt Horton, again, the same thing, they didn't get nothing back, but they paid their portion, and at the time, well, you can develop, correct? All right, well, you can, so I'm saying you're in the same boat. And all I'm saying is we've done it for everybody, we're not trying to leave anything out, and like I said, you're paying nothing at this point. It's only at the time when you sell or tap in.
Well, the original resolution doesn't have anything with the sale, it's a split division.
I don't know. It's up to the board.
I have one more comment. As Jerry said, the original resolution said split or division. The other question I wonder is why in May of 2019, a question was to add a building permit would make us pay. So it seems like this conversation keeps coming up. In May of 2019, there was a question from the board to the township manager asking for an attorney's opinion on whether to add a building permit to cause the sewer to get paid. That seemed a little bit outrageous there. And sometimes we feel like we're being targeted on this, right or wrong, good or bad, but we're just looking to go from the original resolution that says split or divide. There's nothing that says sale. And if we connect again, we'll pay. But right now, we have one connection that we paid for in 1993 with an agreement with the people who were here. I know it wasn't you, but it was.
There was
the
no
peop-
agreement with the people that were here, Marie.
I've
There was
got
no-
a-
it
I've
never
got a
went-
receipt,
It never
Angela.
went before the board.
Excuse
If
me.
you can show me that the board voted on that, then I will agree with you and we can move on. There was
Excuse me.
never an agreement with this
I'm-
board.
I'm at the podium. I have a receipt signed by the people in charge at the time, that we paid for the 150. That's what we went on in good faith 7 years prior to building. That's what we know. We said we wanted one house, that's what we put.
So who was that signed by?
Supervisor.
Supervisor.
And
I might have it in my file.
Did we look in the minutes to see if that was in the minutes from back then? That the board voted? Do you remember, Don? Did
it was
you
not in
vote
the
on that?
minutes. It never came before the board.
Didn't come before.
Never came before the board.
No, no.
Well,
I'm
I
not saying it
understand
is.
that, but we're trying to say everything has gotten so tangled up from that time. We're just trying to be fair, and we're just trying to accommodate everything right now, is all we're trying to do. That's all we're trying to do. Because of the way everything was written, the way everything went down that time, we'll never get the final answer, because the person that signed it is dead now. So we're just trying to be fair to everybody.
At that time, we had the supervisor approach us with this deal. I mean, in good faith,
Yeah.
we signed it thinking we're fine. Why would we
Right,
think
right.
25 years later, we're gonna be coming back over and over multiple times over this thing?
Right.
Of course,
And that's why we're trying to put it to rest. That's why Cindy drew this up, and all we're trying to do is be fair. And like I said, you're not paying anything at this point in time. You're only gonna pay it when you recoup your money, then we just
contacted
ask that we get our
attorney,
money.
too, on this, right?
Yes. And we don't wanna go any further with it, we don't wanna go any more with it.
So I have my receipt for the sewer line construction cost dated 11th day of. I have my receipt for the sewer line construction cost dated February 11th, 1993, which tells us we've got the 150 feet of frontage, and it was signed by a representative from the Charter Township of East China, Sharon McCullough, who was the deputy treasurer at the time. Whether it was in the minutes or not, we wouldn't have known. There's a lot of stuff that's been in the minutes that we never knew about.
Who signed it?
Sharon McCullough.
That's the only signature on it?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
But my original at home has the township seal and all the other good stuff. This is just a copy that I had in my,
This is a copy that's got the seal on it and that, too?
no, my copy at home has the seal on it and all the other good stuff. But I didn't want to lose it. It's in my file cabinet, because every 25 years or so, I have to get it out again.
Yeah.
We did this in good faith.
We did what?
We agreed to it in good faith. We signed the easement in good faith.
I think everybody did, and that's, I mean, it's just there's so many gray areas in this whole thing, just like there is in the cemetery and everything else. I mean, we got a lot of,
Do you have, the letter there, page 17? Look at page 17.
Page 17 is what?
Did you give her that,
She has my copy.
okay, page 17 of her copy, it's the second to last page.
It says number 17 in the corner.
It says 17 in the corner. The intent of the resolution is to recover all township monies expended, once it goes through all the parcels. Then it says the parcels which have paid 100% of the construction and engineering costs shall be refunded up to 25% of those costs. That is where the refund that we're talking about.
We don't have.
Okay, so, okay.
I guess that's our own argument, we're fine with the resolution, we're just opposed to changing it. Which adding sales, we're changing.
We're just trying to have the township recoup their money. Again, we're trying to get everything that the people owed to get that back. That's all we're trying to do. That's all we're doing. And again, we're not asking for any money, we're not doing anything for the third time that I'm saying that. All we're saying is when it is sold,
We signed that, there was never any mention of adding another phase and running 400 feet, and oh, you will owe for that someday.
there was a lot of stuff that happened back then. And I know that you guys aren't very well aware of it because it happened so much. I lived it and I went through it, and I know exactly what happened back then. And it wasn't pretty. It was, all we want to do now is put it to rest.
All right. Where are we going from here? I don't have my resolution. This is what we gotta read.
Upon the split or sale. Or sale. Split or division. Or connection.
I have a question. What was the amount on that you had said you paid?
We paid $7,000 in 1993 for 150 feet of footage.
Comes out to $46.66 a foot. So it wasn't even the 5014. And that's what I'm saying, that's a number that the supervisor just threw out again on his own, didn't come to the board.
The number, and this is anecdotal at best, the number of 7,000 came from the fact that we said, no thank you to the sewer initially because we could put in a septic field. And that was an approximate cost for a septic field for the size of the house we were gonna build.
Oh, 7,000?
That's what, yes, that's what we were told. So that's, they said, for that cost, we bring it in and give us an easement.
Can I ask how big the lot is, how much you're fronting?
It's a triangular piece, so the front has 660 feet, I believe it is. But in the back, it's only,
610, I think.
610. In the back's only 280 something, I think, so, there again, I don't know what kind of.
How many acres is it?
8.5.
8.5.
But I don't know what you could really do because of the shape of it as far as splits anyway. Because it's an irregular shaped piece of property.
But you paid for 150 feet of frontage?
We paid,
Yeah,
That means
it's on
that-
the curve right there, and they needed to put a what the interest of the township was, is they had to put a manhole there. So they wanted to, in order to reduce their costs or whatever, that was why they needed to come onto our property in the first place.
Why would it have anything to do with the curve if they'd even plan on extending it any further?
That's what we were told, I don't know.
Because we were denied when we first asked to extend it, they said no. So if they're gonna put it on the curve and they're thinking that it's gonna be expanded, why were we told no?
I don't know, because, you know,
That's, because I don't think that's why it went
The
there.
cost was, or the idea was, if they had to put one outside our property, then if they did go, that maybe they already had the phase 3 in their minds or something at that point.
No, if they had phase 3 in their mind, they weren't approving it. They definitely didn't approve it when it was there. That's why we went to battle with it. So I don't see why they would have extended it if they never planned on moving it any further. So, okay.
well, phase 2 was in before you guys asked for phase 3. Phase 2 was in, and that was the idea. Philip was looking down the road to
This is the old one.
bring the sewer down the road, so that's.
This is a new one here.
Get involved rather than 2.
Well, I guess it's gonna be up to the board to adopt this resolution or not adopt it, or change the resolution. Does anybody have any input on it?
Well, what are the situations with the other two? Is that,
They're on septic fields and they can't be split.
okay,
The one is only 105 feet, and now with Breton selling his off, I think his is only like 140, 160, but you have to have 100-foot lots out there.
okay.
So they both have septic fields.
So you have to have that much for frontage, how can you split? What do you need for like a back, or,
You have 450 feet, you can split yours 4 times.
I understand that the front, but like I said, it's no regular piece of
How
property.
far back does Jones go?
He goes to the bike.
He goes to the bike, yeah.
Yeah. But his is only, see, his is irregular too, he's like 102 feet in the front and 50 foot in the back.
Well, it sounds like you could split it with the frontage and not with the, on the back. Yeah, I don't know.
You can split the front, you just won't go back as far, but you can split the front.
I don't know what the rules are on splitting it, because we never looked at it, we never intended on doing that.
Yeah.
Here's another concern, Bill.
Okay, could you go to?
What's
the-
that?
Could you go to the podium, please?
Wait, we need to vote on this. We need to move. I didn't bring all my
Here's another concern. What we're asking for is if you pass this resolution to remove the word "or sale." We're asking you to remove those 2 words. Actually, split or sale, but you're talking about the sale of property. We're here, thank you, Larry, we're here. But Jones and the people who live in the other Britton house, here again, they know nothing of this, and this is going to be attached. That you're changing the resolution from February 1994 to include sale. So that affects them also.
Doesn't affect them, because once their septic fails, they're gonna wanna tap into the sewer. And they know at that point, Mr. Jones already knows about it, he's talked with Larry about it, he knows that he has to tap in.
Okay.
And
And
the same thing with
Breton
Mr.
house
Breton.
sold, and I don't think those people even know this agreement is out there.
Exactly.
No.
Well, when I talked to Jones in the summer, he wasn't aware that anything was going on. And I just kind of said, "Hi, neighbor, guess what?" So,
Question.
yes,
You paid for 150 feet of frontage. You paid $7,000.
yes,
That was an agreed-upon price.
yes.
You have a document that supports that?
I have a receipt indicating that, yes.
Okay. And
The
it
township
specifies-
approach,
It specifies 150 feet of
Yes,
frontage?
yes,
yes.
Okay. So you actually have paid, and you have connected?
correct.
Okay. Then, if you were to split, I'm just presupposing, the resolution, if it did not have the words "or sale" in there, if you were to split that property now, which could be split, then you would have to pay an additional $50.14 per lineal foot for the additional frontage that, from 150 feet up to, you said you have 600 feet or something like that?
460 feet times $50.12 is what you're proposing if we were to split.
If you were to split it. What this says right now, if the words "or sale" were deleted, that if you sold the whole parcel, then there would be no charge to the purchaser, because you've already paid for what was agreed upon at the time for 150 feet. However, if that person who bought the property split it, then they would have to pay the additional frontage charge.
Correct.
Or whatever the distance is.
So you would be selling the property that has the potential to be split. But if you sold it right now, the way, if it did not have "or sale" in there, there would be no cost to you in selling the property, which is the way the original resolution from
1993.
From 1994, that's the way the original resolution read. it does not say or sale, it just says division or split, which is redundant. I mean, that's the same thing.
Correct.
So what you're asking for is the elimination of the words or sale from this resolution.
Yes, please.
Okay, I'm just, because I was not here in 1994, I'm just trying to understand what the dollars are
Yes.
and what the assumptions are in this whole process.
Yes.
So the proposed resolution would be, require you to pay an additional $50 times 460 feet if you sell the property unsplit.
Yes, if you leave the word or sale in there, that would require,
That's all I'm trying to understand. And I just, as I was reading the original resolution, the or sale is not in there.
that's correct.
Where does your house sit in relation to the 150 feet?
It's right in the middle, I mean, that's the problem, I guess I have.
Yeah.
is
So the sewer's right here,
We're
150
right in
feet.
the middle, and with the
They
irregular
built
shape
their
of the
house right
property,
there.
I don't know that you could get more than one split off each side if you wanted to anyway. So economically, I don't know if it's even worth
They ran the
thinking
sewer
about
over
that or
for
selling it in one piece for the value of the larger
This
lot.
is where the sewer ended.
But the potential, I mean, potential
If
is
somebody
there to-
chooses to do
No,
that.
they can't get 400 feet.
No, I can't, so. And then the way, like I
Why
say,
can't
the
they
way
get a 400-foot
the way it's sitting, on the
That's what I'm
north
saying.
side, I
They
think we
paid
have
for
like
this 150
maybe
feet.
200
Right.
feet of frontage.
They built their house way
On
down.
the
Okay,
south
you get a split
side,
here,
I have a
and
lot
you get
more,
two
but the
splits
south
over
side
here.
property, the back lot line
Yeah, I don't know
is
how
almost
big
even
this
with
is.
our
You get-
house
you get
already.
At least two.
So
if
these
not
lots would
three
have to
splits
go
here,
from
you
like
get
100 foot to a point.
This has gotta be.
So they're not very attractive pieces of property to split
This
off.
gotta be
That,
done. I bet they're
the
over
attractiveness is,
I understand that, but I'm just
That's
saying,
450.
economically,
Huh?
to split it
Over to here, you
and
think?
pay for that $23,000 doesn't make much sense versus just selling it in one
I
piece.
bet it's 300
To
feet,
us,
or
anyway.
600.
So you get
So
two.
you got
paying for
300
that
splits. We could do
at a
three
point of
splits,
sale
yeah.
adds no value to us at all. It just is another burden.
You guys didn't really listen to what Gary had to say.
it's a discussion of the economics of splitting or not splitting, and, that becomes a technical issue, and then you're trying to pass an ordinance or
But I
a
think the
resolution.
assumption is I'm going to split it. The assumption
No, the
always has
assumption
been.
is not that you're gonna split it, not at all, that's not our assumption, but like Marie just said, that Jones and Breton don't even know that
They
this
don't,
exists.
yeah.
How about the person that buys your property?
Well, I guess the question I'll bounce
He's
it
not
right
gonna
back
know,
to
is
you.
he?
What
So
about
now a
Jones-
developer
what
buys
about
your
Jones
property.
If he sells his property, does he know he's faced with that?
Who?
If Jones sells his property?
He never paid for his sewer.
I know. but if
Right,
somebody
there's no
moves in
sewer there.
If somebody
So the
moves
new
in there and
person
has a
coming
septic
in,
field
our
thinking
ordinance
I'm
says
all
you
set,
have to tap
now all of
in.
a sudden you're gonna come and say, oh, no, you owe
Our
this.
ordinance states you have to tap in if your septic fails. So we know at some point in time, they're gonna have to pay.
But the
Okay,
potential
because
buyer
my
may
septic
not
system
know
fails.
that, is what
But
I'm
your
saying.
buyer, if an investor buys it, he comes in to buy that, all of a sudden, he comes to the township and wants to split it, we're gonna charge him $23,000.
I
Because he
understand
never
that,
knew
but that-
about it.
There again, I guess that's, first off, I
Right,
wouldn't do
and so all
that.
I'm saying is, all
That
I
would be
want is
considered the
for,
price.
is when you do sell your property and you gain your benefit from it, just pay us back, that's all we're
I'm
saying,
saying if I
Jerry.
sell it in one piece, I don't see the benefit of it.
You don't?
No.
Well, I don't even
Because
wanna
I
give you a
already paid to hook
comparison
into the
about a lot that was just sold by my house that doesn't even have a sewer on it, what he sold it for. Okay? I know what you can get for that with a sewer on it. And it's not what you paid for it. It's not what you paid for it.
I'm disagreeing, like I say, I don't think I can.
I think that's the whole issue here is, when are you gonna recover your monetary money? When you sell it in one chunk? Or,
When is the township going to gain? The township will gain when there's another tap-in, not when we sell it. If we sell it.
but if we just get 100 feet, if you sell a 100-foot lot off, we're only gonna get 100 at a time, correct?
Go across the street, Randy Work sold, nobody paid until they tapped in.
us didn't realize how much they would have to pay.
Right.
I mean, did Vanderwerf tell them that this resolution?
I don't know that. I know Beelen paid a lot too.
But again, they're buying a property with no sewer on it, so they know they're gonna have to pay. You have sewer on your property. You have the
Yeah, I
direct
think they
benefit
could've-
of a sewer right now, and when the agreement was made, it was made to recoup our money. And that's all we're asking for. So Breton, when when Vanderwerf sold his property, he sold it with no sewer. He didn't regain any money.
They
He
weren't
didn't recoup
required to hook
anything.
onto the sewer, were they, on the east side of the road?
All of Phase 2 and all of Phase 3, every one of those properties that were sold, they recouped their money when they sold their property. That's why they're getting no money back. So all we're saying is you're gonna recoup your money.
We have one sewer, we paid for one sewer in good faith in 1993, one connection for our house. That's it. And if we sell it as that, as one piece, and if somebody else buys it and splits it up and does things with it, that's their prerogative.
But you're walking away with 460 feet of sewer and not paying for it. And the only reason that sewer was run back then was because the supervisor and the clerk went through and got that thing with the engineer and got it run. It never came before the board, but that's a totally different story. It's all behind us now. We're just trying to figure out where we go from here. And you know the relationship you have with the clerk. So all we're trying to do is move forward.
You need to step off.
No, I think the Breton property got away from us, and that, we didn't get charged, we didn't charge for that. Now, how are we gonna recover our cost on that? So by putting the word sale in here for the three of them, that's gonna help us recover our cost. So, that's how I feel about it. But it's going on 10 o'clock here. Let's, what does the board want to do with this? Do you want to read the resolution and vote on it?
I'll read it. Resolution number 18-2019, whereas Bell River Road Sewer Project Resolution dated 2/21/94, Attachment A, provided for the construction of a section of the Bell River sewer line of which benefiting property owners were required to pay prorated share cost based upon the lineal footage of the property. And whereas on the same date, the Charter Township of East China Board of Trustees passed a motion stating the township will provide $60,000 maximum to cover costs of construction. And whereas resolution establishing sewer fees for certain Bell River Road properties, resolution dated 10/16/1995, Attachment B, provided specific fees and costs for property owners based upon benefit, location, and lineal footage, and once the township recovered its initial investment, those property owners listed in the resolution will receive 25% of their investment back. And whereas on the same date, the Charter Township of East China Board of Trustees passed a motion stating the township will provide $62,123.44 maximum to cover costs of construction. And whereas those property owners listed below did not contribute to the prorated costs of construction, and in accordance with the resolutions aforementioned, will be required to pay the agreed-upon cost of $50.14 per lineal foot upon the split or sale of said property, or upon connection to the sewer line due to septic tank or field failure. R579C2, St. James Gerald Marie, 2771 Bell River Road.
It's not the right address.
2463 Bell River Road. R579C4, Jones Jeffrey Susan, 2555 Bell River Road. And R579C3B, Breton, Clarence, and Valerie. Now therefore be resolved that the Charter Township of East China has recovered the required initial investment of $62,123.44, and property owners listed below are due a 25% refund of their prorated share cost, according to Attachment C, which details all costs, collections, and refunds due. Parcel number 7418540008-000, Smith Craig, 2363 Bell River Road. Amount due, $579.41. Parcel number 74-18-54-0008-100, owners Roger Stephen Renee, address 2371 Bell River Road, amount due $579.41. Parcel number 74-18-54-0009-200, Jankowski Kim Lori, address 2387 Bell River Road, amount due $1,300.36. Parcel number 74-18-054-0009-100, Lake Robert H., address 2395 Bell River Road, amount due $1,336. Parcel number 74-18-773-7600-200, Petsalis Angelo, Mary Beth, 2771 Bell River Road, amount due $2,682.18.
Okay, we have a resolution. We have a support. Supported by Mr. Boda. Is there any more questions? Everybody understands what we're voting on?
One question, is the other two parcels, have they sold?
One has, and one hasn't. We really should clarify that Breton's name shouldn't be on there.
Well, it's on there because it's the original property owner.
And they didn't pay?
And at the time that they sold, at this point, none of those three parcels have paid the additional $50.14 a linear foot.
None
Is
of
that
these.
correct?
Nope.
Correct. This instrument doesn't provide for any parcels that have already been sold.
But that parcel will have to when their septic tank fails.
Or if this resolution would say any of those three parcels, if they sell or are divided, I'm just saying that what it says is if they're split, sold, from this point on, the way the resolution is, as Mr. Blackstock read it, any of those three parcels, regardless of who owns it now, they would actually have to pay the frontage charge.
Correct.
When they sell or when they connect.
Well, this instrument only provides for the owners who were listed at the time of the original resolutions that are referenced here. I don't know who owns R5793 C3B. I don't have an address for that. These are the references that were provided in the resolution.
So it's this would be the ID number.
Well, I'm trying to understand, if we're trying to recoup the cost, then, and we have not recouped the cost on any of these three parcels for the full frontage charge, then this resolution says upon sale or split or connection.
These two can't be split.
Well, okay, I'm just saying that what the resolution says is upon sale or split or connection.
Or
And
due to their septic tank failure.
Or due to their, well, okay, due to the septic tank failure, which is when they would connect. I'm just looking at when the fees would be paid, and that can only be attached to the parcel, so you have the names, but.
Right, so again, that's
So-
why I was hoping someone could
So
take a
we're-
look at this and help me fill in the blanks.
Okay, so
when we started the
we would
process.
be going forward, so from this point on, based on this resolution, it attaches to the parcel number.
Those
I
three.
don't have parcel numbers. That's, again, if someone can help me out with
Oh,
that, I've been
okay.
waiting for maybe a little, all I
Okay.
have is reference numbers which mean nothing to me.
Okay, that's, and you
I
only
do
have the names.
addresses for these two top ones. If anyone has information about this third one, this is the only reference that's ever made in the resolutions, which is why it's listed as such. If you
And
want to, yeah.
I'm just trying to understand
I
what
agree.
happens,
No.
with the adoption of this resolution, and,
If the intent is to attach it to current parcel owners, that's a quite different story than what the initial resolution was.
I hate to be legalistic about it, but you can only attach a bill, so to speak, to a parcel number, and this resolution doesn't really give us, it attaches it to a person,
I agree.
and that's a problem for me.
There's not even an address.
It doesn't, yeah, it doesn't really attach to an address.
Okay, I can answer that question for you. Okay, the Jones property. It's parcel number 74-18-773-7500-000. The address is 255 Bell River Road. The St. James parcel number is 74-18-773-7400-000. The address is 2463 Bell River Road. The Breton, Joseph Frigetto. Is parcel number 74-18-773-7450-100, and the address is 2625 Bell River Road.
One thing that comes to mind when Mr. Freehand was asking his question, so if the wording includes or sale, if Jones sells his house, I don't know his intention, if he sells it and his septic is still functional, with the wording like it is, Jones would have to pay his lineal footage at that time.
If that's the parcel that's in question.
Jones is next to
and
us.
If it has never been, if the frontage charge has never been paid, then that's the way the resolution, that's the intent of the resolution, is that at the point of sale, division, or failure of or connection, then he pays, the owner of that parcel would pay the frontage charge.
That's correct.
$50.14
So-
lineal foot.
So with a working septic, if Jones sells his property with the word "or sale" in there, even though he has a working septic, you would be looking for his $50 per linear foot.
Correct.
And that doesn't seem fair.
I think that's, Mr. Betsalas's comment is that because the sewer was constructed, he would have the option, it adds value to the property itself. And because the sewer is available, or the water line and the sewer line are available.
I would think that person,
That's
if he was,
correct.
anybody was gonna sell, they would come in here and find out what the status of that property is.
Still think that you're changing by adding the words "or sale."
Correct.
So then when somebody buys the property, let's say Joneses sell, and they pay all this up front, their lineage fee or whatever, and the new owners come in, do they have to pay for the hookup on top of all that too? Will they have to pay
No.
that footage or frontage or whatever? So it would be charged twice,
They
basically.
pay for the hookup.
They pay for a tap fee.
They pay for, no, she paid for a hookup,
Yeah.
but they don't pay for the
Okay.
sewer.
And she's talking to Pat, I believe.
Yeah, well, yeah,
Every-
but because the way it's stated, upon connection, they have to pay the linear footage upon the split or sale, or upon connection to the sewer line. So let's say they sold the house, they didn't pay from the sale of it, they didn't pay that footage, then does it go on to the new person or just the hookup? That would be my question.
Well, if they sell it, they have to pay it.
And that's why I see the kind of
How
the
do you think
need
we're
for
gonna
that
double it?
word in there.
How are we gonna double them, I guess, is my question. How do you feel they're gonna get charged double?
Well, maybe I don't understand it the way it's supposed to be written down, but, that's why probably the word "or sale" has to be in there, because then the people that are selling the property pays that, whether they hooked up or not, and then the people that bought the property, when they go to hook up, they just pay the hookup
And
fee,
hopefully, they're gonna
right?
gain that in the sale of their house.
Right.
They're gonna have sewer is available, and then they're gonna pay for that $50.14 a foot. If they're not gonna sell it, say, well, you got a septic, and if it fails, you gotta hook up. That's
Right.
kind of the way it is right now. All right, any more questions on this resolution? Do you have any more, Bob, did you get your question answered?
I'm just concerned about the way the resolution reads, without the parcel numbers.
Do we have a parcel number for Breton?
Yes.
Property?
I gave it to her.
It's your resolution, I can give you the numbers, but I was giving you kind of a, hopefully you could make it work resolution.
I understand.
Well, we can enter those,
That's why
property ID numbers into this.
I can amend it. I'll amend my motion to include the proper property designations.
Which would be their ID numbers. Does everybody understand that? Does that answer your question for have the right ID numbers in there?
The second corollary to that is that at this point, none of those parcels have paid a frontage charge.
Correct.
We have one parcel that's paid a frontage charge,
Or 150
150 feet.
for the one tack and the other tack.
That's where it becomes muddy.
I don't know what you want to do. We have a resolution. Do we have a support on that?
Well, we have a resolution, we have an amendment, do we have a support to the amendment,
The amendment being the ID numbers?
being the ID numbers? Mr.
Mr.
Boda?
Boda.
Okay, so we have a support to the
The ID
amendment.
numbers. Revamp it.
So we have two motions on the floor, or one?
One.
No, we've got, okay, we've got a motion. We have to vote on the amendment first.
All right, we have a motion for an amendment to add the ID numbers to these three pieces of property, and not the R579, C2, C4, C3B. Does everybody understand what we're talking about? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have a motion to accept the resolution with the amended property ID numbers. Does everybody understand what the new motion is? You correct on that, Herb? All right. And we have a support, so all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I'm going to abstain from voting.
What's that?
I'm going to abstain from voting.
Okay. So what do we have, or you want to do roll call?
Let's do a roll call.
Roll call, please.
Okay, Mr. Simons,
Yes.
Ms. Babel,
Yes.
Mr. Blackstock?
Yes.
Freehand votes no. Mr. Boda?
Yes.
And Mr. Gonzalez abstains.
Yeah. So motion carries. What was it? 4-1. Okay, moving on to announcements. I have no announcements today. Next, we have member comments. Mr. Prasalis.
We were contacted by DTE for that tree cutting thing. At the house, they came out yesterday, went for a walkthrough with my wife to the back part of the property to explain what they're cutting down and how much they're gonna be clearing out, and it's pretty much like you said. And they're gonna start clearing out, he said, probably within the next week or so.
Yeah, I talked to him, too. Blaine got a hold of him.
Oh, okay.
Anything else?
Nope, that's it.
Mr. Boda?
I have nothing, thank you.
Mr. Freehand?
I have nothing.
Mr. Blackstock?
Thank you.
Mr. Babel? All I want to say is, go Mariners. They got one more game to have an undefeated season. They're doing really well. So next, I guess a motion to adjourn would be in order.
I'll make a motion to adjourn at 10:16.
I support.
We have a motion and a support to adjourn. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Good night, everybody.